Have you ever wondered why some people remain calm and steady no matter what life throws at them? Why do certain situations make us angry, frustrated, or anxious while others seem to stay unaffected? Imagine walking through a crowded street where chaos is everywhere. Honking cars, rushing people, unexpected delays. Some get lost in irritation, while others move with ease. Why does this happen? Think of a simple example. Two people stuck in the same traffic jam. One is honking, sweating, and cursing the delay, while the other sits quietly, perhaps listening to music or observing the surroundings. What makes their reactions so different? Even though the situation is the same, life is filled with challenges. Someone may criticize you harshly, plans may fail, or loved ones may misunderstand you. How do you remain unaffected in such moments? Can you protect your peace while still engaging with life? On Wisdom Woven, we explore profound lessons from timeless wisdom. Today, we'll uncover how to remain unaffected, using teachings rooted in Buddhism. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribes. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. It encourages us to keep sharing such valuable insights. Remaining calm and steady starts with understanding the nature of life itself. Buddhism teaches that everything is impermanent, and clinging to what cannot last only leads to suffering. When you accept this truth, you open a door to freedom. By practicing mindfulness, you observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. This creates a space where emotions lose their power over you. The teachings also emphasize compassion, not only for others but for yourself. When you face difficult situations, instead of reacting, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth disturbing my peace? In this video, we'll dive deeper into these principles. Through non-attachment, mindfulness, and compassion, you'll discover how to develop a steady mind. Stay with us as we journey together towards inner peace. The art of non-attachment. In life, we hold on to many things: our beliefs, possessions, relationships, and even our emotions. We cling to these things because we believe they define us. But in truth, everything around us is like a passing cloud. It comes, stays for a moment, and then fades away. To hold on to something that is always changing is like trying to grasp water with your bare hands. It slips away, no matter how tightly you hold on. Non-attachment is not about withdrawing from life or giving up what you care about. It's about understanding that nothing in life is permanent. By recognizing the impermanence of everything, we can let go of our attachments and experience life more fully. Take a moment and think about something you are attached to. Whether it's a material possession, a relationship, or an idea. What happens when this thing is taken from you? Does it bring sorrow or peace? This attachment is what binds you to suffering. The more you attach, the more you increase your dependence on something that will eventually change or disappear. When you understand that nothing is permanent, you begin to see life through a lens of acceptance, without fear or resistance. Let's consider a simple example. Imagine you are holding a flower in your hand. You admire its beauty, the color, the shape, the scent. You feel a sense of joy and connection. But now, imagine that the flower begins to wilt. The petals lose their vibrancy, and the fragrance fades. If you hold onto the flower too tightly, the sadness of its fading will overwhelm you. But if you understand that the flower's life is just a cycle, coming into being and eventually fading away, you can appreciate it without fear. You let the flower be what it is, and you can let it go when its time comes. This is the essence of non-attachment. You don't hold on to the flower, nor do you reject it. You simply let it exist in its natural state. You accept that things will change, and you don't let that change disturb your peace. You allow life to unfold naturally, without interference. In Buddhism, the Buddha taught that attachment is one of the root causes of suffering. The more we desire something or someone, the more we fear losing it. This fear then creates anxiety, stress, and emotional turmoil. If we let go of attachment, we free ourselves from these burdens. When we learn to accept things as they are, we find peace. Non-attachment also applies to our sense of self. Often, we become attached to the idea of who we are, our identity, and our role in society. We may think, I am successful, I am a parent, or I am an expert in my field. But these roles are temporary. They will change as we grow, age, and face different experiences. If we define ourselves by our roles, we tie our happiness to something unstable. Non-attachment to the self means recognizing that we are not just one thing. We are a collection of experiences, thoughts, and actions, all of which change and evolve. By letting go of rigid identities, we open ourselves to new possibilities. Non-attachment is also about letting go of expectations. Often, we attach ourselves to specific outcomes. We expect things to turn out a certain way, and when they don't, we feel disappointment, frustration, or anger. But the more we cling to expectations, the more we set ourselves up for suffering. Expectations are based on the belief that we know how things should be. However, life is unpredictable. By letting go of rigid expectations, we allow life to unfold naturally, and we open ourselves to a greater flow of peace and happiness. In the practice of non-attachment, we begin to embrace the present moment. The present moment is all we truly have. Yesterday is gone, and tomorrow is yet to come. When we focus on the present, we are free from regret and worry. We are simply living, breathing, and experiencing life as it is. This doesn't mean we ignore the past or future. It means we don't let them control our thoughts and actions. We can reflect on the past and plan for the future, but we do so with a sense of detachment, knowing that neither the past nor the future is within our control. When you practice non-attachment, you start to notice the beauty in everyday life. You appreciate the little things, the warmth of the sun, the sound of birds singing, the laughter of a friend. These small moments are not tied to any expectations or desires. They are simply part of the flow of life. By letting go of attachment, you free yourself to experience life in its fullest form, without resistance or fear. You may ask, how do I begin practicing non-attachment? It starts with awareness. First, recognize the things you are attached to. Notice the thoughts and emotions that arise when you think about them. Then, ask yourself, what would happen if I let go of this attachment? Would I still be okay? You may find that, in fact, you would feel lighter, more at peace. This awareness is the first step toward freedom. One powerful tool in the practice of non-attachment is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the ability to stay fully present in the moment, without judgment. When you practice mindfulness, you observe your thoughts and feelings without becoming attached to them. You allow them to come and go, like clouds in the sky, without holding on to them. This helps to break the cycle of attachment, because you realize that your thoughts and feelings are not permanent. They arise and pass away, just like everything else in life. As you continue to practice mindfulness, you begin to see that everything is interconnected. Just as you are not separate from the world around you, nothing is separate from you. This understanding creates a sense of unity with all things, and you begin to let go of the need to control or possess. You realize that you are part of a larger, ever-changing process, and your attachment to things is just a small part of the whole. When you stop clinging, you are free to experience the fullness of life. In the end, non-attachment is not about giving up everything or becoming detached from life. It is about finding balance. It is about engaging fully with the world without being bound by it. It is about appreciating life for what it is, rather than what you want it to be. When you let go of attachment, you create space for peace, joy, and freedom. You are no longer controlled by your desires, fears, or expectations. You are free to live in the present, with a heart open to all experiences, both pleasant and unpleasant. Non-attachment is a practice, not a one-time achievement. It takes time, patience, and mindfulness. But as you let go of the need to hold on, you begin to find the peace that lies beneath the surface of your thoughts and emotions. You become like the flower, beautiful, open, and free, knowing that change is inevitable, but never losing your essence. Understanding impermanence. Imagine standing on the shore, watching the waves come and go. One wave rises, reaches its peak, and then falls back into the ocean. Another comes, just as it will rise and fall. The water, always moving, never stays the same. The waves, they don't last forever, just as nothing in life does. Everything, our emotions, our experiences, even our troubles, are like waves in the ocean of life. Impermanence is one of the fundamental teachings of Buddhism, and it is the key to remaining unaffected by the ups and downs of life. Life is full of change. Nothing stays the same, not even for a moment. It is this truth, this simple but profound truth, that can free us from much of our suffering. The more we grasp onto things, the more pain we create. The more we resist change, the more we fight with life itself. In the same way, when we try to hold on to a moment of happiness or shield ourselves from discomfort, we only set ourselves up for disappointment. But when we understand that everything, even our struggles, is temporary, we free ourselves from the cycle of grasping and pushing away. We can experience life fully without being consumed by it. The Buddhist perspective on impermanence teaches us that nothing lasts forever. Whether it's joy or sorrow, success or failure, all things pass. The problem arises when we mistake something that is temporary for something permanent. We think that a difficult situation, a hurt feeling, or a failure will last forever, but it never does. It will fade, just as joy and good fortune will also fade. The Buddha taught us that suffering arises when we try to hold on to things, to people, or to ideas. We think that we can control the world around us, but it is like trying to control the wind. It blows freely, without our permission. The moment we release our need to control, we can embrace the flow of life as it is. We stop fighting the currents and learn to ride them with ease. Think of the weather. Sometimes it's sunny, and other times it rains or storms. No matter what, the weather always changes. So too does our life. Some days we feel light and carefree, while on others, we might feel burdened with sadness, stress, or frustration. It is the nature of life to change. If we learn to accept this, to see the ebb and flow of emotions and situations as natural, we stop clinging to things. We start to live with more freedom. In your daily life, you might experience feelings of anger, fear, or sadness. These are like waves too. They come and go. But if you identify with them too strongly, if you believe they define who you are, they will create suffering. The truth is, you are not your emotions. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. You are the space in which they arise and dissolve. When you see your emotions as fleeting, as impermanent, you stop letting them control you. You start to let them flow through you, instead of holding on to them. The same is true with success and failure. If you tie your self-worth to achievements or outcomes, you'll always be at the mercy of change. Today you might feel proud of an accomplishment, and tomorrow you might face a failure. But if you can view both as temporary events, as passing waves, your peace remains steady. You are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined by how you respond to it. The Buddhist teachings on impermanence are not meant to make you indifferent to life or encourage you to abandon everything. Instead, they are meant to guide you to a place of deep understanding and peace. When you realize that everything is temporary, you are able to engage fully with life, without becoming attached to its ups and downs. You learn to appreciate the present moment, knowing that it, too, will change. The moment is precious because it is fleeting, not because it will last forever. One of the greatest challenges of life is accepting change. As human beings, we often want things to stay the same. We want stability, comfort, and predictability. But life is not like that. Life is dynamic, always shifting and changing. The more we resist change, the more we struggle. But the more we accept it, the more at peace we become. This doesn't mean that we should stop caring about the things we love, or that we should stop working towards our goals. Rather, it means that we should learn to engage with life in a way that allows us to be fully present without clinging to any particular outcome. We can appreciate a beautiful sunset, but we know that the sun will soon set, and the sky will change. We can enjoy a moment of joy, but we understand that it will pass. When we stop expecting permanence, we stop suffering when things change. This practice of embracing impermanence is not something that happens overnight. It requires patience, mindfulness, and a willingness to face the discomfort of change. But with time, it becomes easier. The more we practice, the more we begin to see the world in a new light. We begin to notice the impermanence of everything around us, the changing seasons, the passing of time, the rise and fall of our emotions. And as we see this, we begin to let go. We let go of our need to control, our need to hold on, and we allow ourselves to flow with life. This doesn't mean that we stop caring or stop making plans. It means that we make plans and care deeply, but we do so with the understanding that things may not unfold as we expect. And when they don't, we can adapt. We can change with them. Just like the waves, we rise and fall, but we do so without attachment, without resistance. We ride the waves of life with grace, knowing that everything, both good and bad, is temporary. To remain unaffected by life's changes, we must learn to see things as they are, impermanent, ever-changing, and beyond our control. The more we accept this truth, the more we find peace in the present moment. We stop chasing after fleeting pleasures or avoiding discomfort. Instead, we learn to be present, fully engaged in the moment, without clinging to any one thing. This is the path to true freedom, the power of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just a word. It's a way of living. It's the simple act of being fully present in the moment. Yet, it's so easy to overlook, isn't it? How often do we find ourselves thinking about the past or worrying about the future? These distractions take us away from the present, which is all we ever truly have. Imagine this. You're sitting in a park, watching the leaves fall gently from the trees. You notice the wind brushing against your face, the sound of distant laughter, the way the sunlight filters through the branches. But then, thoughts start to creep in. Did I remember to send that email? I need to make dinner soon. Why did I say that earlier? Before you know it, you've drifted away from the peaceful moment and into the clutter of your mind. Now, stop for a moment and ask yourself, how often do you get caught in such thoughts? How often do you forget the beauty of the present because your mind wanders? Mindfulness is the key to bringing you back to the present moment. It's about letting go of all that noise and simply being here, now. In Buddhism, mindfulness is considered one of the most important practices. It's about being aware of what is happening in your body, in your mind, and in your surroundings without getting swept away by it. It means paying attention to your breath, to your movements, to your thoughts, without attachment. When you practice mindfulness, you start to notice things that often slip by unnoticed. The texture of the air, the taste of your food, the feeling of your feet on the ground. These small details are always there, but they go unnoticed when our minds are distracted. By paying attention, you begin to connect more deeply with the world around you. But mindfulness is not just about noticing the pleasant things. It's also about acknowledging discomfort or difficulty without letting it overwhelm you. For example, if you're feeling anxious or angry, mindfulness helps you to observe those emotions without reacting. You don't push them away, and you don't give in to them. You simply observe, and in that observation, you create space. This space is crucial. It's where true freedom lies. Instead of being controlled by your emotions or thoughts, you become the observer. You can watch them come and go, without getting caught in their grip. Think about a storm. When you're caught in the middle of it, it feels intense and overwhelming. But when you step outside the storm, you realize it was only temporary. Your emotions are like that. They can feel powerful, but they don't last forever. When you practice mindfulness, you begin to see that these emotional storms are not as powerful as they seem. They come and go, and you don't have to be swept away by them. Mindfulness also allows you to connect with the deeper part of yourself, the part that is always calm and steady, even when the world around you is turbulent. This inner stillness is like a quiet pond. No matter how much the wind blows on the surface, the water beneath remains still. When you are mindful, you tap into that stillness, and from that place, you can respond to life with clarity and calmness. The power of mindfulness lies in its simplicity. It doesn't require complex techniques or special knowledge. It's about being present with whatever is happening in the moment, without distraction or judgment. Whether you're washing dishes, walking to the store, or sitting in a meeting, you can practice mindfulness. It's not something you need to set aside time for. It's something you can bring into your everyday life. In Buddhism, there is a teaching called right mindfulness. This means being mindful in a way that leads to wisdom and liberation. It's not just about being aware for the sake of awareness, but about using that awareness to transform your mind and your life. When you are mindful, you begin to see the true nature of things. You see how your thoughts and emotions are temporary, how they don't define you, and how you don't have to be controlled by them. The Buddha taught that mindfulness is a path to freedom. When you are fully present in the moment, You free yourself from the endless cycle of craving and aversion. You stop chasing after what you want and running away from what you don't. Instead, you learn to accept things as they are, without judgment. This doesn't mean you don't strive for improvement or change, but that you approach life with an open mind and heart without clinging to any particular outcome. But mindfulness doesn't always come easily. Our minds are naturally busy and restless, constantly jumping from one thought to the next. This is why mindfulness is something you have to practice. It's like training a muscle. At first, it can be difficult to stay focused on the present moment, but over time, it becomes easier. And the more you practice, the more you begin to notice the subtle ways in which mindfulness can transform your life. Start small. Try taking just a few moments each day to focus on your breath. Feel the air enter your body and notice the sensation of it leaving. When your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back. You don't have to judge yourself for getting distracted. Just return to the breath. As you practice, you may begin to notice that you feel more at peace, more grounded, and more present in your daily life. Mindfulness is also a tool for overcoming stress and anxiety. When you are mindful, you are less likely to get caught in the spiral of worry and fear. Instead of focusing on what might happen in the future, you focus on what is happening right now. This shift in focus can bring a sense of calm because you realize that in the present moment, there is often nothing to fear. It's important to remember that mindfulness is not a quick fix. It's a lifelong practice. But as you continue to practice, you'll find that your ability to stay calm and unaffected in difficult situations grows. You'll become less reactive and more aware of your own thoughts and feelings. And with that awareness, you can begin to choose how to respond, rather than simply reacting out of habit. Over time, mindfulness helps you to cultivate a deeper sense of peace and equanimity. You become less affected by the ups and downs of life, and more able to remain steady in the face of challenges. You begin to understand that while you can't control everything that happens in your life, you can control how you respond to it. And in that response, you find freedom. So, what is the power of mindfulness? It's the power to be present, to be aware, and to be free. It's the ability to face life's challenges with a calm and steady mind, knowing that no matter what happens, you are always at peace within yourself. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you will experience this freedom, and the more you will begin to see the world through new eyes. Eyes that are clear, open, and full of understanding. In the next part, we'll explore how mindfulness helps us to balance our emotions and stay unaffected by the storms that come our way. But for now, take a moment to breathe. Feel the air enter your body. Notice the stillness within. This is the power of mindfulness, and it's always available to you. Mastering emotional balance. In life, emotions are like the waves of the ocean. Sometimes they are calm, and at other times, they are wild and powerful. Imagine yourself standing at the shore, watching these waves. If you try to stop them, you'll tire yourself out. But if you simply observe them, they come and go without affecting your inner peace. This is the essence of mastering emotional balance. Most of us believe that emotions are things we cannot control. We think that when something happens to us, it's the event itself that causes our emotional reaction. But that is not true. It is not the external world that disturbs us. It is how we respond to it. Buddha taught us that our suffering arises from attachment to desires and aversions. When we desire something and don't get it, or when we want to avoid something and can't, our emotions flare up. Anger, frustration, fear, and sadness are born from these attachments. But what if, instead of clinging to our desires or running away from our fears, we simply allowed them to pass through us, like clouds in the sky? The key to emotional balance is understanding that our feelings are not permanent. Just like the weather, emotions come and go. The more we cling to them, the more they control us. But when we let go of attachment to any specific emotional state, we free ourselves. This is not about suppressing or denying emotions. It is about seeing them for what they truly are, temporary and ever-changing. Let's take anger as an example. When anger arises, it feels intense. It feels like it will last forever. But if you stop and observe, you'll notice that the intensity of the anger fades over time. It is like a storm that eventually clears. By simply noticing the anger without becoming lost in it, you begin to dissolve its power over you. You don't need to act on it. You don't need to react in a way that fuels more anger. You can simply let it pass. Mindfulness is the practice that helps us stay present with our emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. When we are mindful, we observe our thoughts and feelings as they arise, but we don't identify with them. We realize that we are not our emotions. We are the awareness that notices the emotions. This awareness is like a calm lake that reflects everything but remains undisturbed by what it reflects. When you start to observe your emotions with mindfulness, something amazing happens. You begin to realize that you have a choice. You can choose how to respond. You can choose to let go of anger, sadness, fear, or anxiety. You can choose peace over turmoil. This is true freedom. Freedom from being controlled by your emotions. Compassion is another powerful tool for mastering emotional balance. It is not just compassion for others, but also for yourself. When emotions arise, especially difficult ones, it is easy to be harsh with yourself. Why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't be angry. I should be calm. These thoughts only add more weight to the emotional burden. Instead, practice self-compassion. Acknowledge your emotions without judgment. Tell yourself, it's okay to feel this way. I am human. When you do this, you create space for healing and growth. By practicing compassion, you also learn to respond to the emotions of others with understanding. If someone is angry with you, instead of reacting with anger, pause. See that their anger comes from their own attachments and struggles. Respond with kindness, and you will help diffuse the situation. Emotional balance doesn't mean being indifferent or detached from life. It means engaging with life fully, but without being controlled by the ups and downs of your feelings. It means choosing to remain grounded in the midst of the storm, knowing that the storm will eventually pass. One of the greatest lessons in emotional balance comes from observing nature. Think of the trees. When the wind blows, they bend and sway. They don't fight against the wind, they adapt. But when the wind stops, they return to their original position. Like the trees, we too can learn to bend with the winds of life. We can adjust to the changes that come, but we don't have to lose our center in the process. The Buddha taught that by practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, we can master our emotions. Right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These are the practices that guide us to emotional balance. Each step is a reminder to stay centered, to not be pulled away by the tide of emotions. Emotional balance also involves letting go of the need to control everything. The desire for control often causes emotional turbulence. We want things to go our way, and when they don't, we get upset. But life is unpredictable, and trying to control it only creates frustration. Instead of controlling, learn to flow with life. When you accept that some things are beyond your control, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. Another important aspect of emotional balance is forgiveness. Holding on to grudges and resentment keeps us trapped in negative emotions. When you forgive others, you release yourself from the chains of anger and bitterness. Forgiveness doesn't mean you condone what was wrong. It means you free yourself from the weight of those emotions. Equally important is forgiving yourself. We all make mistakes, and it's easy to carry guilt and regret. But these emotions only drain us. When you forgive yourself, you allow yourself to heal and move forward with a lighter heart. The practice of gratitude is another powerful tool for maintaining emotional balance. When we focus on what we are thankful for, we shift our attention from what is wrong to what is right in our lives. Gratitude helps to create a positive emotional environment within us. It grounds us in the present moment, and it reminds us of the beauty and goodness that already exists in our lives. When we cultivate emotional balance, we create space for joy, peace, and clarity. We are not swept away by every wave of emotion. Instead, we ride the waves with awareness and acceptance. Over time, this practice becomes easier, and emotional balance becomes more natural. So, how can you start mastering your emotional balance today? Begin by observing your emotions. When a strong emotion arises, take a deep breath and pause. Instead of reacting immediately, ask yourself, what is this emotion telling me? Do I need to act on it, or can I let it pass? Practice mindfulness throughout the day, and notice how your emotions shift. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to stay centered. Remember, you are not your emotions. You are the observer of your emotions. And with this understanding, you can maintain balance no matter what life throws your way. The storm may come, but you will remain calm, rooted, and unwavering. This is the path to emotional freedom. The role of compassion in equanimity. In the stillness of the heart, compassion becomes the greatest teacher. Imagine a calm lake, untouched by the winds. Its surface is smooth, reflecting the skies above without distortion. This is how a compassionate heart holds the world, without judgment, without fear. Compassion, the ability to feel for another, can help you remain unaffected, not by hardening your heart, but by softening it. It teaches you to stand firm in the face of suffering and to offer relief, without allowing the pain to consume you. When we speak of compassion, it's often thought of as something we give to others. But in truth, compassion must first begin with ourselves. Without kindness toward our own hearts, how can we offer it to others? The Buddha spoke of self-compassion as the foundation of true empathy. Only when we accept our flaws, our mistakes, and our suffering can we offer this same acceptance to those around us. The world is full of suffering, sickness, pain, loss. When you see someone in distress, it is natural to feel their pain. Yet, it's important to recognize that compassion does not mean absorbing the pain of others. Compassion means understanding and acknowledging their suffering, but then acting from a place of peace, not from a place of disturbance. One of the most profound teachings of Buddhism is that suffering is universal. It is part of life, part of the human experience. But if we learn to respond to suffering with compassion, we can soften its effects. We do not need to avoid suffering. Instead, we need to learn to be with it, gently, without letting it overwhelm us. True compassion does not make us weak. It makes us strong. It allows us to face life's hardest moments with a heart that remains open, not closed off in fear or indifference. Compassion is not a reaction, but a response rooted in understanding that all beings, including ourselves, are worthy of love and care, regardless of their actions or circumstances. When you practice compassion, it nurtures the equanimity in you. Equanimity, the ability to remain balanced, calm, and composed amidst life's ups and downs, flourishes when compassion is present. Compassion and equanimity work hand in hand. They both teach us not to react impulsively to the world's chaos, but to pause, breathe, and choose a response that is rooted in wisdom and kindness. Consider a time when you were angry with someone. Perhaps they hurt you, disrespected you, or misunderstood you. It's easy in such moments to feel overwhelmed, to react with anger or bitterness. But what happens if, instead, you approach that person with compassion? What if you, instead of responding with your own hurt, could see their suffering as the root of their actions? This shift in perspective can bring peace to your heart, allowing you to remain unaffected by the negativity around you. Now, let us examine this with another simple example. Imagine you are in a meeting where someone speaks harshly, criticizing your work. It's tempting to react, to defend yourself, or to feel insulted. But in that moment, if you pause and offer compassion, both to yourself and to the person speaking, you begin to see beyond their words. Perhaps they are struggling with their own fears, insecurities, or stress. By responding with compassion, you allow yourself to remain unaffected by their negative energy, and you can approach the situation with a clear, open mind. This does not mean being passive or allowing others to mistreat you. Compassion does not demand silence in the face of wrong. It simply encourages a response that is measured, calm, and rooted in love. You don't have to carry the pain of others. You don't have to absorb it. But by recognizing their pain and responding with kindness, you create a space where both you and the other person can find peace. Buddhism teaches us that suffering is not personal. When someone insults you or behaves negatively toward you, they are not attacking you as a person. They are expressing their own inner turmoil. Understanding this helps you to not take things personally. This is the essence of compassion. It helps you see the world through the eyes of others, acknowledging their struggles without allowing them to disturb your inner peace. Equanimity does not mean you don't care. It does not mean you turn away from others' pain. In fact, true equanimity is strengthened by compassion. When we are at peace with ourselves, we are able to extend that peace to others. We can give, we can care, and we can support, all without being carried away by the emotional currents of the world. When you cultivate compassion, you find yourself responding to the world with a steadiness that cannot be easily shaken. You do not react with anger when someone cuts you off in traffic. You do not feel frustrated when things don't go as planned. Instead, you breathe, you pause, and you respond with patience and kindness. Compassion teaches you that there is no need to react to the world with aggression or frustration. Instead, you can meet each moment with calmness, knowing that whatever happens, you can remain centered in your own heart. Compassion also invites you to forgive. It asks you to release the grip of past hurts, to let go of grudges that hold you back from peace. It allows you to understand that forgiveness is not about excusing wrong actions, but about freeing yourself from the chains of resentment. By forgiving, you choose peace. You choose to remain unaffected by the pain of the past, and instead, you focus on healing, both for yourself and for others. In every moment, there is an opportunity to practice compassion. It's in the small acts, offering a smile to a stranger, listening to someone without judgment, offering help without expecting anything in return. Compassion is not a grand gesture. It is a way of being. It's a quiet presence, a deep understanding, a gentle response to the world's suffering. To practice compassion is to walk through the world with open eyes and an open heart. It is to see each person not as an obstacle to your peace, but as a fellow being on the same journey. In doing so, you learn to live unaffected by the ups and downs of life, for you realize that every moment, every person, and every situation is an opportunity for learning and growth. As you continue to cultivate compassion, you'll notice something profound. The world begins to feel less chaotic. You stop reacting to every little disturbance, and instead, you find yourself moving through life with a steady, peaceful presence. Compassion becomes the lens through which you see the world, and through it, you remain unaffected by the storm outside. In Buddhism, it is said that all beings wish to be free from suffering. Compassion reminds us that we are all interconnected in this shared desire. When you open your heart to others, you open it to yourself. And in that openness, you find the equanimity to live a life untouched by the turmoil of the world. Compassion becomes the foundation upon which you build your peace, your strength, and your ability to remain unaffected by life's inevitable challenges. Detachment from praise and criticism. The world often pulls at you, both with praise and criticism. People will admire you, and others will condemn you. But if you look closely, you'll notice something important. Both praise and criticism are just passing clouds in the sky. They appear for a moment and then drift away, leaving no lasting impact. Imagine you are walking through a busy market. Someone praises your new clothes, saying they look beautiful. Another person criticizes them, saying they're too bright, too flashy, too expensive. What happens inside you? Do you feel elated by the praise, or do you feel small from the criticism? It's easy to become attached to praise, to seek it, to feel good about it. When people applaud you, your ego swells, and you feel important. But when criticism comes, it's like a storm that shakes you, making you doubt yourself. Buddhism teaches that the key to true freedom is not to attach yourself to either praise or criticism. These are the fluctuations of the world, ever-changing and unreliable. If you tie your happiness to them, you will always be on a roller coaster of emotions. Consider this. When someone praises you, do you become overly proud? Do you let it define your sense of worth? Or, when someone criticizes you, do you feel crushed, as if your very essence is being questioned? To remain unaffected, one must practice the art of detachment. This does not mean you ignore praise or criticism, but rather, you do not let them govern your emotional state. When praise comes, simply acknowledge it and move on. When criticism comes, take a moment to reflect, but do not let it define you. It is important to understand that praise and criticism come from others, and they are reflections of their own minds, not of your true nature. When someone praises you, they are seeing you through their lens, shaped by their experiences, likes, and dislikes. When someone criticizes you, they are projecting their own fears and frustrations. Think of it like this. If you stand in front of a mirror, you see a reflection of yourself. Now, if the mirror is dirty, the reflection will be unclear. Praise and criticism are like the mirror. just reflections of how others perceive you. They are not the truth of who you are. You are not the reflection in the mirror. You are the one standing in front of it, unaffected by its flaws. When you realize this, you free yourself from the need for approval. You no longer seek validation from others because your sense of self comes from within. This doesn't mean you stop caring about others' opinions or stop trying to improve yourself. It simply means you do not rely on external factors to determine your worth. You understand that praise and criticism are fleeting and that your true value is not dependent on them. One of the great teachings of Buddhism is the middle way. It is the path of balance, where you neither cling to praise nor shrink from criticism. You walk the path of equanimity, where your mind remains calm, no matter what others say. To practice detachment, you must first cultivate awareness. When someone praises you, pause for a moment and notice how your mind reacts. Does it swell with pride, or does it remain steady? Similarly, when someone criticizes you, observe how your emotions respond. Do you feel angry, defensive, or hurt? By observing these reactions, you create a gap between the stimulus, praise or criticism, and your response. In that gap, you have the power to choose how to respond. You can choose to remain unaffected, simply acknowledging the words without allowing them to disturb your inner peace. This practice takes time and patience. At first, it may feel difficult to stay calm when someone criticizes you or praises you excessively. But with practice, you will notice that the power these words have over you begins to diminish. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a calm lake. When you throw a stone into it, the water ripples and disturbs the surface. But as the stone sinks, the water returns to stillness. Praise and criticism are like the stones, momentarily disturbing the surface of your mind. But if you do not attach to them, your mind will return to its natural state of calm. One of the greatest obstacles to detachment from praise and criticism is our deep desire for approval. We seek it because it feeds our ego. But the ego is like a fire that constantly needs fuel. The more you feed it with praise, the more it demands. And the more you avoid criticism, the more fragile it becomes. To free yourself from the grip of praise and criticism, you must let go of the ego. You must learn to see yourself as you truly are, without the need for validation from others. This does not mean you become arrogant or indifferent to others. It means you understand that your value is inherent, not dependent on external opinions. When you no longer seek validation, you become like a tree rooted in the earth. No matter how strong the wind blows, the tree stands firm. You, too, will remain steady, no matter what praise or criticism comes your way. Buddhism also teaches that the way to true peace is through self-awareness and self-compassion. When you stop seeking approval from others, you begin to understand yourself more deeply. You see your strengths and weaknesses with clarity, and you learn to accept them without judgment. Acceptance is key. Instead of trying to be something you are not, accept yourself as you are. When you accept your flaws and imperfections, you free yourself from the need to prove anything to anyone. You no longer need to defend yourself when criticized, nor do you need to boast when praised. By practicing detachment, you also create space for others. When you stop reacting to praise and criticism, you allow others to express themselves without fear of judgment. You become a mirror that reflects only the truth, not the distortions of ego. Think of a clear sky. No matter how many clouds come and go, the sky remains unchanged. In the same way, when you detach from praise and criticism, your true self remains unchanged. You are not defined by what others say about you. You are defined by your actions, your character, and your inner peace. In the end, detachment from praise and criticism is not about shutting yourself off from the world. It is about being free. Free from the need for approval, free from the sting of criticism, and free to live your life with authenticity and peace. The next time you find yourself swayed by praise or criticism, remember this. You are not the words they speak. You are the one who chooses how to respond. Choose to remain unaffected, and you will find the true freedom that comes from within. This is the path to inner peace, the path of detachment. It is a path that leads to true freedom, where you are no longer bound by the opinions of others. You become like a mountain, unchanging, unwavering, and unshaken by the winds of praise and criticism, navigating desires and aversions. In life, we often find ourselves pulled in two directions, towards what we want and away from what we don't want. This dance between desire and aversion shapes much of our experience. Our cravings drive us, and our dislikes push us away. Yet, both these forces can trap us, causing us to chase after fleeting pleasures or run from discomfort. So, how do we remain unaffected by them? Desire is a powerful force. We want success, love, wealth, recognition, and comfort. These desires can feel like a fire inside, pushing us forward. But have you noticed how often these desires leave us empty once they are fulfilled? A moment of joy, a moment of success, and yet, it fades. The satisfaction doesn't last. You get the promotion you've longed for, but soon, another desire arises. You get a new car, and before long, you're thinking about the next one. Desires themselves are not the problem. It's our attachment to them. Attachment creates an endless cycle of craving. The more we chase, the more we feel incomplete. Think about the last time you felt restless, wanting something you didn't have. Did it bring lasting peace? Or did it fuel your need for more? The same can be said for aversions. We push away things we don't like, things that make us uncomfortable or cause us pain. We avoid failure, criticism, loneliness, or even physical discomfort. But in avoiding, we often make the situation worse. We create a mental barrier, a sense of, this is bad, I can't bear it. The more we avoid, the more we suffer, because we end up running from life itself. The key to navigating both desire and aversion lies in understanding their impermanence. Both arise and pass away. The craving for something new or the aversion to something painful are temporary states. They rise like waves on the ocean, and just like the waves, they eventually subside. The problem is, we often don't allow them to fade naturally. We grasp tightly to what we want, and we push away what we don't. This creates suffering. Buddhism teaches us the middle way, the path of balance. It invites us to observe our desires and aversions without identifying with them. When a desire arises, notice it without judgment. "Ah, I see you, desire," you might say. "You are here now, but I don't need to chase you." When an aversion arises, don't push it away. "I see you, discomfort." You can observe. You are here, but you don't define me. The more you practice this, the more you create space between your inner peace and the constant pull of desires and aversions. You are not your desires. You are not your aversions. You are the observer, the stillness within. To help with this, try a simple practice. Sit in silence for a few minutes each day. During this time, let your desires and aversions come and go. Notice them as they arise in your mind, but don't react. Just watch them like clouds floating across the sky. The clouds will come, but the sky remains unchanged. You are the sky. Your true nature is not disturbed by the fleeting clouds of thought and emotion. As you continue this practice, you'll begin to notice that desires and aversions lose their grip on you. They don't control you anymore. They become like visitors passing through, instead of forces that dictate your actions. This doesn't mean you will stop feeling desire or aversion. It simply means that you will not be governed by them. You will no longer feel pulled towards something, nor will you feel the need to escape something. You will have the freedom to choose your response rather than being swept away by your impulses. Imagine a situation where someone criticizes you harshly. In the past, you may have felt anger rise or the urge to defend yourself. But now, instead of reacting immediately, you pause. You recognize the desire to respond with anger or the aversion to being criticized. You observe these feelings, but you don't give in. You choose a response that comes from your inner peace, not from the pull of desire or aversion. This is the power of mindfulness. It allows you to observe without getting swept away. It helps you find stillness amidst the storm of desires and aversions. The more you practice, the more you become the master of your own mind, no longer at the mercy of these passing waves. There is another important element in navigating desires and aversions: understanding the root cause. Often, our desires and aversions stem from a deep sense of lack or fear. We desire things because we believe they will fill an inner void. We avoid things because we fear the pain or discomfort they may bring. But the truth is, these desires and aversions cannot fill us. True contentment comes from within, from understanding that we are enough just as we are. When we realize this, the need to chase after things or run from discomfort fades. Take a moment to reflect. What are you chasing right now? What do you want that you believe will bring you lasting happiness? And on the flip side, what are you avoiding and why? When you become aware of these patterns, you can start to shift your approach. Instead of chasing after something external, look inward. Instead of avoiding discomfort, embrace it as part of the journey. Everything you seek outside of yourself is already within you, if you are willing to see it. In the practice of meditation, we learn to sit with both our desires and aversions. We allow them to rise and fall without judgment. This practice builds the muscle of equanimity, the ability to remain balanced no matter what arises. By understanding the nature of desires and aversions, and by practicing mindfulness, you can live a life where you are not controlled by either. You will move through life with a calm, steady heart, unaffected by the ups and downs of wanting and rejecting. This, in essence, is true freedom. Not from the world around us, but from the internal forces that bind us. When we are free from the tyranny of our desires and aversions, we find peace, clarity, and the ability to live in harmony with the world as it is. So, the next time a desire or aversion arises, remember, it is just a passing wave. Let it come and go. You are the ocean, vast and unshaken, finding freedom in the present moment. The mind is like a wild river. It flows endlessly, always seeking something. Something to hold on to, something to fear, something to desire. And in this endless flow, we forget the one thing that can set us free, the present moment. Now, you might ask, what is so special about this moment? It is simple, yet profound. The present moment is where life happens. It is the only time we truly exist. The past is gone, and the future has not yet come. But the present is here, right now, in this breath, in this thought, in this very experience. Imagine you are walking in a garden. You feel the breeze, the warmth of the sun, and the earth beneath your feet. Your mind, however, may wander. Perhaps it drifts to worries about tomorrow or regrets about yesterday. But the moment you return your attention to the garden, the scent of flowers, the sound of birds singing, you begin to feel a deep sense of peace. In that moment, you are free from the distractions that pull you away from life. This is what Buddhism teaches, to be present, to live fully in each moment without chasing after the past or future. The key to freedom lies in recognizing that the mind, when left to its own devices, will wander into stories and anxieties that keep us trapped. But if we learn to return to the present, we can find true liberation. In each moment, there is a chance to reset, to come back to the center of your being. The noise of the world may surround you, but you do not have to become part of it. Instead of getting lost in your thoughts, observe them. Notice how they arise, how they pass away, and how you do not need to be controlled by them. It is like sitting quietly in the midst of a storm. The wind may howl, the rain may fall, but inside, you remain calm and steady. You are not fighting the storm, nor are you running from it. You are simply present, aware of what is, without attachment to how it should be. Living in the present moment also means letting go of expectations. When we expect things to unfold in a certain way, we set ourselves up for disappointment. We are constantly waiting for something else to happen, to bring us happiness, peace, or satisfaction. But the truth is, the present moment is enough. When you learn to accept things as they are, without needing to change them, you begin to experience the freedom of true contentment. This does not mean that life will be free of challenges or difficulties. On the contrary, life is full of ups and downs. But when you are present, you are no longer overwhelmed by these challenges. You can face them with clarity and calmness. The present moment becomes your refuge, a place where you can rest, recharge, and find strength. So, how do we cultivate this presence in our lives? It begins with awareness. In every moment, ask yourself, what is happening right now? When you are eating, feel the taste of the food. When you are walking, feel the ground beneath your feet. When you are talking to someone, truly listen to them without thinking about what you will say next. As you practice this, you will begin to notice something remarkable. The more present you are, the more you realize that life is not something to be fixed or controlled. It is something to be experienced. You don't need to run after happiness, success, or security. When you are fully present, you discover that peace and freedom are already here, waiting for you. The beauty of the present moment is that it is always accessible. It does not require special conditions or circumstances. It is available to you right now, no matter where you are or what you are doing. All you need to do is turn your attention to it. When we learn to live in the present moment, we stop giving power to the past and the future. The past is no longer a burden that weighs us down, and the future is no longer a source of fear or anxiety. We begin to see that the present is the only time that matters. It is the only time we have, and it is enough. This teaching of the present moment is not just a concept to understand, but a practice to live. The more you practice returning to the present, the more natural it becomes. You begin to recognize the moments when your mind wanders, and you gently guide it back to where you are. You become more and more aware of the beauty and richness of each moment, and you start to live with a sense of ease and flow. In the busy world we live in, it is easy to get caught up in the noise. But by practicing presence, you create space for peace. You no longer feel the need to escape from life. Instead, you embrace it, with all its imperfections and surprises, knowing that this is where you are meant to be. Let us look at another example. Imagine you are sitting at your desk, working on a task. Your mind begins to wander, thinking about the past or worrying about the future. You start to feel restless, anxious, and overwhelmed. But then, you take a deep breath and bring your attention back to the task at hand. You notice the sensation of your fingers on the keyboard, the words appearing on the screen, the gentle hum of the environment around you. You realize that in this very moment, everything is fine. The world may be full of distractions, but in this moment, you are at peace. This is the power of presence. When you are present, you find that there is no need to chase after anything. There is no need to prove yourself, to achieve more, or to be somewhere other than where you are. You are enough, just as you are, in this moment. And this is where true freedom lies. Freedom is not about escaping the challenges of life or avoiding pain. It is about being fully present with whatever comes your way, without getting caught up in it. It is about seeing life as it is, without judgment or resistance, and finding peace in the simplicity of being. The present moment is always here, waiting for you to return to it. And every time you do, you experience a deeper sense of freedom. It is like a door that opens into a vast, limitless space, where you are no longer bound by the past or the future. You are simply free to be. So, let this be your practice. In every moment, return to the present. Let go of the stories in your mind, the expectations that weigh you down, and the fears that hold you back. Embrace the present, and in doing so, you will discover the true freedom that lies within you. Conclusion: the unshakable mind. As we come to the end of this journey, let us reflect on what we have learned. Through each step, we have explored how to remain unaffected in a world full of distractions, challenges, and constant change. Now, the question is, how can we truly live this wisdom? How can we take these teachings and make them part of our daily lives? We have learned that nothing in this world stays the same forever. The things that cause us pain today, whether it's a difficult situation, an argument, or a personal failure, will pass. The key to remaining unaffected is recognizing the impermanence of all things. Like the seasons change, so too will our experiences shift and evolve. When we cling to anything, be it good or bad, we invite suffering into our hearts. But when we learn to let go and flow with life, we find peace. Think of a river flowing calmly. The water moves without hesitation, flowing around obstacles, never getting stuck on them. Life is the same way. Every situation is like a stone in the water. If we resist, the water swirls and struggles. But if we let go, the water continues to flow, moving effortlessly forward. Our lives, too, can flow like that river. If we accept what comes our way, without attaching ourselves to it, we can move through life with grace and peace. What does it mean to be unaffected? It doesn't mean you stop caring about the world or others. It means that no matter what happens, your inner peace remains unshaken. You respond to life, not react to it. You do not let your emotions dictate your actions. You observe, you reflect, and you choose how to respond. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. It's like learning to ride a bike or play an instrument. At first, it may seem difficult. You may lose your balance, you may get frustrated, but with practice, it becomes second nature. And so it is with your mind. The more you cultivate mindfulness, the more you strengthen your inner peace. One of the most powerful tools we have is the practice of mindfulness. Every moment can become an opportunity to observe our thoughts, feelings, and reactions. When you feel anger rising, pause and simply observe it. Do not judge yourself for feeling angry. Just notice it, acknowledge it, and let it pass. The same goes for joy, sadness, or fear. No feeling is permanent. They come, they stay for a while, and they go. Your job is not to hold on to them, but to let them flow through you. Compassion is another powerful force. It's easy to show kindness when things are going well, but true compassion shines when life is difficult, when people are rude or unkind, when you're facing obstacles. Compassion doesn't mean you let others take advantage of you. It means you understand that everyone is going through their own struggles. You offer kindness, not because they deserve it, but because you understand the pain behind their actions. Remember that no one can disturb your peace unless you allow it. The moment you feel disturbed, pause and ask yourself, who is in control of my peace? Is it the other person or the situation? Or am I giving away my peace by allowing myself to react? To remain unaffected, you must be aware of your thoughts. They are the seeds of your actions. If you constantly think of anger, resentment, or fear, these emotions will shape your actions. But if you plant seeds of mindfulness, compassion, and acceptance, you will act from a place of peace. The more you practice, the more these qualities become a natural part of who you are. Let go of the need to control everything. Life will never unfold the way you expect. People will surprise you. Things will not always go according to plan. But when you let go of the need to control the outcome, you free yourself. You stop living in fear of what might happen and start living fully in the present moment. This is where peace lies, in the acceptance of what is. In moments of challenge, take a deep breath and remind yourself of this truth: this too shall pass. Whether it's a stormy day or a peaceful one, both are temporary. What remains is your response to life. Your ability to remain unaffected, to stay centered, is your greatest strength. Finally, remember that the path to an unshakable mind is not about perfection. It's not about never feeling anger, sadness, or fear. It's about how you handle those emotions when they arise. It's about recognizing them, accepting them, and then choosing how to move forward. You are not a victim of your emotions. You are the master of them, and with that mastery, you will find the peace that comes from within. So, take these lessons with you as you go through your life. Practice mindfulness. Cultivate compassion. Accept impermanence. Let go of attachment. And above all, remember, you are the creator of your peace. No one can take it from you unless you allow them to. As we end this journey, I leave you with one final thought. The path to inner peace is not an event, but a practice. It's something you do every day. Every moment offers a new opportunity to practice remaining unaffected, to find stillness in the chaos, and to nurture your unshakable mind. Thank you for walking this path with us on Wisdom Woven. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support allows us to continue sharing wisdom that can change lives. Keep practicing, and may your mind remain as steady as the mountain, no matter what storms may come your way.